What is truth? Now, my starting point is the famous formulation, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, or I exist. René Descartes knew he existed. I also know I exist. But why do I exist? I did not choose to exist, yet I do. I did not choose the body my thoughts seem to be confined within. So, what shall I do with this knowledge of existence? Is it enough to merely exist, or must there be a reason for my existence? The very existence of life leads to questions about life, of which answers are demanded by those people who possess life. But who or what can provide these answers about life? And even if we receive answers, how do we know if the answers are correct? For answers to be correct, they must be true. But what is truth? Is truth absolute or relative? Can truth even be obtained? Is truth important? Why is truth important? Jonathan Swift, from 1667 up to 1745, was quoted saying, "But when a man's fancy gets astride on his reason, when imagination is at cuffs with the senses and common understanding as well as common sense is kicked out of the doors, the first proselyte he makes is himself." Going back even further, Demosthenes, from 384 to 322 BC, is quoted as saying, "Nothing is so easy as to deceive oneself, for what we wish, we readily believe." Now, questioning the evidence against a belief is one thing, but when the reluctance to admit to making a bad investment into a belief rises to the level of denying or refusing to heed the evidence, then what we have is not critical thinking, but wishful thinking. Many people are reluctant to release lies and false beliefs because of the amount of time and energy they invested into them. How many lies has the common person accepted and integrated into his or her life? How much time was invested into those lies? To understand why I exist, I must journey on a quest for truth. For only in truth can understanding about the knowledge of existence be known. But what is truth? Truth can be understood both from what it is and what it is not. First, let's examine what truth is not. Truth is not what works. Something that works and produces the right results doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Even when results are in, one can still ask whether the initial statement corresponded to the facts. If it did not, it was not true, regardless of the results. Truth is not that which coheres. A set of false statements can be internally consistent. If several witnesses conspire to misrepresent the facts, their story may cohere better than if they were honestly trying to reconstruct the truth. But it is still a lie. At best, coherence is a negative test of truth. Statements are wrong if they are inconsistent, but not necessarily true if they are consistent. If everyone is doing wrong, that doesn't make it right. If everyone believes the lie, that doesn't transform the lie into a truth. Truth is not that which was intended. If something is true because someone intended it to be true, then all sincere statements ever uttered are true, even those that are patently absurd. Sincere people are often sincerely wrong. People can possess good intentions yet still travel in the wrong direction. Truth is not what is existentially relevant. What is true will be relevant, but not everything relevant is true. A pen is relevant to an atheist writer, but does that make it true that there is no God or gods? A gun is relevant to a murderer, but this does not make the former true nor the latter good. And truth is not what feels good. Truth may not be convenient. It is evident that bad news can be true. But if what feels good is always true, then we would not have to believe anything unpleasant. Truth is not necessarily the consensus. It is not determined by the majority vote. And finally, truth simply cannot be relative. Let us examine what truth is. Truth is correspondence with reality. If it lacks proper correspondence, it is false. The claim, truth does not correspond with what is, implies that this view corresponds to reality. Then the non-correspondence view cannot express itself without using a correspondence frame of reference. All truth is absolute. There are no relative truths. The relativist who thinks relativism is true for everyone is actually an absolutist. The dilemma is this: a consistent relativist cannot say it is an absolute truth for everyone that truth is only relatively true. Nor can the person say it's only relatively true that relativism is true. If it is only relatively true, then relativism may be false for some or all others. Why then should I accept it as true? The relativist stands on the pinnacle of an absolute truth and wants to relativize everything else. If truth were relative, true for me but false for you, then an impossible would be actual. For if I say there is apple juice in the refrigerator, and you say there is not any apple juice in the refrigerator, and we both are right, then there must both be not apple juice in the refrigerator, and at the same time, and in the same sense. That's impossible. If truth is relative, no one is ever wrong, even when they are. The truth is that absolutes are inescapable. Now, it's objected that truth cannot be absolute since we do not have an absolute knowledge of truths. Sounds good at first. Even most absolutists admit that most things are known only in terms of degrees of probability. How then can all truth be absolute? Well, take for an example the old belief that the world was flat. Now, at the time that the old belief was accepted as truth, the truth was that the world was round. Truth never changes. Humans do not ever alter truth by their beliefs. For while truth is absolute, our understanding of absolute truth is not always absolute. Truth can be absolute no matter what our grounds for believing it. There is never a new truth created. Rather, it is only a matter of us discovering the ancient truth for what it truly was and is. Truth is. Truth doesn't change. Rather, our perceptions of truth and understandings of truth changes. When science truly progresses, it does not move from an old truth to a new truth. Rather, it moves from error to truth. Truth is absolute. Truth is narrow, but it's correct. That's the way truth is. Each truth claim excludes contradictory truth claims. For example, simple math, right? 3 plus 4 equals 7. Absolutely, 3 plus 4 is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or any other number. 3 plus 4 equals 7 and only 7. Well, but then someone can assert that 5 plus 2 equals 7. Ooh. Therefore, that person can reach the same truth by different means. And this is why different beliefs and religions exist. Now, the important argument is between either gods exists, or gods does not exist. These two statements cannot both be true. If one is true, then the other is false. And since they exhaust the only possibilities, one of them must be true. Someone might ask, is it necessary to care if God or many gods exists or not? Absolutely. Yes. We should care. It matters. But why? Why does it matter? We exist. Our identity is determined by our origin and our purpose by truth. For once we know the truth of this matter, we will have the right foundation on which to build our lives and to live out our lives. Purpose is directly linked to whether gods exist or not. For if God or gods do exist, well, then we were created for a specific purpose, and we should live in alignment with that purpose. However, if gods, does not exist, well, then we were created by chance, and we must endeavor to create our own purpose. So yes, it matters. If we were created by chance, we only have a few years within this limited lifetime to create our own purpose, and also find reason to believe that our created purpose will actually matter and serve a purpose after we're gone. So then, does God or gods exist? All beliefs must be investigated. And so, the quest for truth begins with questions.